Hi, we're friends of the Earth Merthyr. My name's Chris Austin and this is Alyson Austin, my wife. And over the last, good grief, a year, 18 months and maybe longer, we campaigned against a massive incinerator in Merthyr. This huge incinerator was being sold as an energy from waste scheme that was green and environmentally friendly and wonderful and the sort of thing you tuck you up in bed every night and everybody should have one. And to be honest with you, we were sold a lie for at least, I don't know, 24 hours before we managed to get on the web and find out exactly what it was. When we did, it was absolutely terrifying. A massive, huge, mass burn incinerator at Hutton.
What we did, we decided as a local group we were going to fight it. We started to hold little meetings. Friends of the Earth in Cardiff then offered their support to it, and the Rights and Justice team in London, because it was considered to be of national importance. It was being decided by the Infrastructure Planning Commission, and it was one of the first ones of the country to be tried and tested under this new planning. Rights and Justice team wanted to keep an eye on things and to see exactly what was happening. So we had their weight behind us. What we did then, once the planning permission had been accepted by the IPC, we knew that we had to get numbers. So we took it out into the communities, we set up public meetings, and at the end of each public meeting, the community there would set up their own community group with a chair, secretary, treasurer, etc. And we had to do this in all the different villages around the area.
We spread that work then over probably 3 weeks, was it? Something like that?
Yeah.
Gathering all the communities together in the Rumney and Darren and Sahawi valleys and Merthyr, of course, our own hometown. And we ended up with many local groups then. So we amalgamated a few, and I think once we got to groups of similar sizes, we were probably about 13, wasn't it? 12 or 13 groups.
The purpose of this was, under the IPC, you have to register your interest before you can take part in the process, and this involves completing a very long and complex form, which we knew basically, you know, people weren't going to do. We couldn't ask people to do it. So what we did, we completed a form and we literally copied it thousands and thousands of times over. So all people had to do was to read the objections, providing they agree with the objections, put their name and address, and they could legally be registered. And
we created a pro forma as such, which with an untried planning process as well, wasn't acceptable to the IPC to start, and we had to argue our corner forcefully.
They had to accept it.
Legally, they had to back down and accept a pro forma. They knew they were using the process to make it exclusive, so as they would actually be closing out of the planning process, those people would slow down a planning application. This is the residents, us, the people who it would impact.
So the end result of this was that we had 10,500 people registered to take part in the process. Absolutely brilliant.
Superb effort by people banging on doors, standing in the middle of town, megaphones going on to people, stores, everything we could possibly think of to interest people to register, because we had to make that protest, that impact, and we had to get people involved with it. We had to have the numbers, because there was a political game to be played as well, because we had no political support at all at any level, not in the councils, the local authorities, the Welsh Assembly, or at Westminster. It was just being driven straight down from the top, and we had to turn, by any means, turn around politicians. And obviously the best way to do that is by weighted numbers. When they see more people standing outside the town hall shouting than they were elected by, it starts to focus their minds.
So next stage then, we've got the numbers. How do we fight the application itself? This document, this planning application, was thousands and thousands. It was box file after box file of documentation. And we were supposed to read this and dissect it and try and analyse where they were going wrong. So what we decided to do, we just listed all the objections that we thought were applicable to this application, and people took it in sections and concentrated their efforts on different sections.
Yeah, we created working groups, as such. We started finding that the workload was growing. We had lots and lots of people, all with skill sets that we could utilise. So we just saw what we had in the community. We started a technical group, a submission group, and we apportioned the work for them to work with. At this point, it's probably a very good point to say about the people and managing the people. We now had hundreds and hundreds of people working on this, and one facet of it or another, as technical or making representations to local government or the politicians. We had people who were working with local authorities, the Parks Authority in Brecon. We had people who were fundraising, and we were trying to manage all this. And the first meeting that we had, wasn't it, as a combined meeting of all the groups, was an absolute shambles. We couldn't run it. We had hundreds of people all trying to talk at the same time. So we formed an umbrella group to control it all. So we had 13 local groups, and then we had the United Valleys Action Group as an overarching group then, to try and coordinate the workload with all the local groups.
Within the local groups, yeah. So what we got then, we got a fundraising team who were organising the finances for the group. They had to then organise themselves with health and safety courses, food hygiene course,
CRB checks, because
working with children.
We created an organisation as such that needed management, and as Friends of the Earth local group, and we had the biggest knowledge of the whole process, and we were sort of overseeing it. We ended up as project managers. We were man managing. We were so what started for us as a technical role, we were starting to come up and out of as overarching.
But the other side then as well, this is a fast track process. It's designed to get planning through it as quick as possible. And of course we've got jobs, we've got children, and we have to try and manage all this on top of the day-to-day living and working as well.
Everybody's got commitments.
Whereas the company, the local authorities, they've got people dedicated to just work on this, 5 days a week.
They can meet the deadlines, as you say, because they are dedicated to doing that task. Look at that, 8 hours, 10 hours, 12 hours a day, whatever they're working. We have to do it. So we have to chop the workload up in such a sense as it all came together then at the end. You'll have a section here from one person, a technical submission from another, and then we just coordinated that, put it all together, putting our submissions to the IPC.
So what we had was a hugely technical document by the United Valleys Action Group, and this had to be copied 7 times over. So we had thousands of pages of documents ourselves that had to be copied 7 times over. And the poor guy who did it for us, he was up till 5 o'clock the day of the deadline. He was up till 5 o'clock in the morning copying all these submissions for us, and we had to take them down
to Bristol and delivered it by hand to the infrastructure planning commission. We were absolutely gobsmacked. We turned home in under boxes of technical submissions. This is a process. It's all something that happened. You know, I mean, we were going through it, and it grew and it grew. What I'd like to do is to take a step back really and say what people took away from this, what came out of this over and above the win, because obviously we drove them away at the end, and this is common knowledge now, but we had people involved with this who have never done anything like this ever in the community. We had educational levels, all levels, but there's always a role for somebody to play, and there's always a role for them to learn things and move into it from where they are. It was a tremendous process to teach people things, to move them on. They learned how to speak in public in front of the commissioner for the Infrastructure Planning Commission. It was a very frightening task, because at the preliminary hearing they raised a dais and a table up on a dais overlooking everybody else in the room, the public, and the commissioner sat on the top table and looked down at everybody. they demanded to be called Madam and Sir, Madam Gracious Sir. We've got people here who've never spoken in public ever in their lives who had to address this, and we run workshops, and training workshops, role play, so to take the fear factor out before we got there, and we called for each of the topics then that we were presenting. We called individuals from each part of the communities up and down the valley to speak on behalf of their community, and it was a very, very powerful thing.
And then we won.
They pulled
out.
And then we won.
I think we all remember the day they pulled out. It was like when Kennedy was assassinated.
When you land on the moon, everybody knows when Armstrong came to land on the moon, and when Kennedy was assassinated, etc., etc. Everybody.
And it was like all our birthdays and Christmases.
Everybody who heads the valleys area now remembers where they were when we found the Command pulled out of pulled their planning application.